Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about what a project actually is. We use the term very broadly without necessarily thinking about what it actually is, and I think it's quite interesting, particularly when you compare projects with processes, because the two in work and in home life to a degree are intertwined. So the key thing about a project is that it's something that's unique and that it needs to be planned and managed individually, whereas processes tend to be routine and follow a pattern, and there's often documentation to support it already in place. So there's checklists. Like, for example, one of your routines might be to go to the shops and buy the food for the week. You do that each week. It's the same process. If you write a list, you have the same process for how you write a list. You check your fridge, you check your cupboards, etc. So a project is doing something that's unique and needs to be thought of separately. So what we're talking about here is a unique objective. A project is to do something specific, and all the plans, designs and everything are generally done from scratch. There's possibly a need for specialist skills in business. We're talking, of course, at work. If it's something that doesn't need to happen very often, a company isn't going to have full-time people who have those skills, so they have to be brought in, particularly for the project. One of the consequences of that is, on a project, a lot of people are new to each other. They're new to the organisation, new to each other. And so it's an interesting situation there. And the other thing is that a project isn't a line management structure. So I would come on as a project manager, and I'm having to manage various resources to help me achieve the project goals. But I don't have direct reporting lines to any of those people. They each have their own individual line managers. And so I have to work with people with whom I do not have line management responsibilities or authority. So how does that make it different to processes? Well, processes achieve routine objectives, like routine backups of the data or routine reporting. For routines and processes, there's usually documentation already in place. There is a description of how it's done. There are checklists, all sorts of things like that. Generally, for something that is a process, you have full-time staff that do it. Something like reporting doesn't happen every day, it might happen every week or whatever, but it's incorporated into the duties of people who are full-time staff. With processes and operational teams, people know each other, they're used to working with each other, and they also have a clear relationship with their line manager and their manager. And so it's a very straightforward, solid sort of situation. So process and project are very different in that way. Some projects, of course, become processes. If it's a project to do something for the first time, it becomes a new project. But if it needs to be repeated and repeated, then eventually it can be made into a process. The documentation is written up, checklists, etc. And if it's something that needs full-time staff, they'll be taken on to do that. The other thing is, when you're managing a project, there are a number of processes within what you're managing. So I have a need to raise a network change request. There'll be a process for that. There'll be a standard form that I have to complete. It'll be on the system or web page of some sort. But there'll be processes I have to follow for that. There'll be processes I have to follow for communication. There'll be processes I have to follow for ordering. There'll be processes I have to follow for making sure invoices are paid. But the project is the unique encapsulation of all those individual processes that have to be stitched together for this one unique objective. So, a couple of final points about projects I'll mention. One of the key things about projects is it's about change. And that is that something is different at the end than it was at the beginning. With processes, it's a cyclic thing. No, nothing really changes. It's a bit like some sitcoms where you know that at the end nothing will be different to how it was at the beginning. Whereas a project, something's different. There's a new system installed, or a system has been upgraded, or even new processes are implemented in the business, but something is changed, something's different. So there we are. That's a quick run through of what makes a project and what makes it not the same as a process. And there are some interesting characteristics in here, because it means if you're working on projects and moving from company to company, because the company doesn't need your skills all the time, it means it's very varied. You're working with a lot of different people from time to time, and different relationships, different personalities, which is kind of what makes it interesting. But it means also that you can't just bludgeon your way through. You need to be good at relationships and encouraging people to want to help you. People who you didn't know a week or so ago, and people who you won't have anything to do with in a few months hence. So it's a very particular sort of situation to be working in. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.